We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. First up tonight, just after we've called this meeting to order, before approval of agenda and Fontana Regional Library calls theirs to order, the reason we're here and the reason that there is no public comment tonight is because this was a Board of Commissioners called meeting. Therefore, our rules are there are no public comments. So that is kind of why I know there was some confusion and some individuals wanted to have public comment. That's why we don't have public comment tonight, is because it's a work session. We've asked Fontana Regional Library Board to come here, and we're not taking questions tonight. We're trying to get information, and that's the purpose of the meeting. And we appreciate Fontana coming and helping us navigate this process. And with that, I'll turn the board over to Ms. Womble.
And I'd like to call to order
Really what we're here for is opening conversation, dialogue between Fontana Regional Library Board to learn really some of the processes that are in place, to gather some financial information if we can. I know that y'all's finance officer is not here tonight, but just to send you guys back with some requests, hoping to gather more information and learn where money goes, how it comes in. Really, P&Ls are huge for us, knowing where there's profit and loss and just where our money goes, where our taxpayer money goes. The other thing that I hope is there's no public attacks. I mean, we are here to learn. We're not here to criticize or really, we're here to learn. If those in the audience could please respect as we go through conversation, not to shout out, yell out, just be respectful and mindful that we're working to get a decision. We want to make this as civic and positive as possible. So with that.
Okay, well, first I would like to, since y'all are from Jackson County, you may not know all the members of the Fontana Regional Library Board because we have representatives from each of the 3 counties that comprise Fontana Regional Library. So I'd like to introduce the board. We have Deborah Smith from Jackson County, who you do know. Bill McGaha, who's from Macon County. Kathy Smith, who's from Macon County. Ellen Snodgrass from Swain. Tony Monette from Swain. Lori Richards from Jackson County, and Marva Jennings from Jackson County. We do have one board member from Macon County who was not able to make it tonight because of a conflict with the Hudson Library event. I did want to also give an opening statement. First, I wanted to say hi. My name's Cynthia Womble, for the benefit of those of you who don't know who I am. And I'm the acting chair of the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees. I was elected the vice chair and became the acting chair when Jackson County didn't reappoint the previous chair, Margaret Carton, to the Fontana Regional Library Board. So that caused me to become the acting chair. So I've been serving in that role since January. I've been on the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees for 4 years now, appointed by Swain County, and am a resident of Swain County. For the benefit of those who may not understand what the status of Fontana Regional Library is as an organization, I want to clarify that we're chartered as both a local government agency and a nonprofit. Under the North Carolina general statutes that cover regional libraries in North Carolina, we have to comply with all the general statutes that apply to municipalities, including the requirements for a finance officer who meets the certifications and qualifications of a finance officer that you would hire for Jackson County. We also have to undergo regular audits, just like municipalities do, that are posted on our website. So that's public information that's readily available on our website. Our current finance officer, Mr. Lynn Cody, in addition to being a qualified finance officer, is also a sitting commissioner on the Graham County Board of Commissioners. So he's got extensive local government experience. We're also a 501c3 nonprofit under the state of North Carolina rules, which requires us to comply with federal and state requirements for nonprofits. So in addition to our audits and things we have to do for the state, we also have to file Form 990s for tax purposes and those kind of things. But that does allow us to take donations and apply for grants as a nonprofit. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to meet with you. As I've read in news reports and seen on some of the videos from your meetings, I've not had the opportunity to attend in person one of your meetings, although I know some of our board members have. But we've seen that there were some concerns that you all had expressed in your meetings or in interviews. But I did want it noted for the record that since I became the acting chair of the Fontana Regional Library in January or December when Margaret was not reappointed, I've not had any feedback specific to the Fontana Regional Library from any county commissioners of any of our 3 counties. I've not had a single phone call, email, text, memo, or letter addressing any concerns or issues related to Fontana Regional Library. The issues and concerns that have been brought to our board have come from board members, such as Lori, in identifying some concerns of safety, or from the regional director, which is also appropriate to come to the board in that way. So I welcome the chance to be able to find out exactly what your concerns are that are so severe that it's brought you to consider removing yourselves from the Fontana Regional Library. Thank you for addressing the concern about the lack of public comment. I am very concerned that I am very cognizant of the fact that the regional agreement that Jackson, Macon, and Swain signed does put the requirement on Fontana Regional Library to have public comment at all of our meetings, whether they're work meetings or not. And so I appreciate your pointing out that that was a decision that Jackson County made, not Fontana Regional Library, that we are complying with the regional agreement as written. I also want to let you know that as of July 1st, the Fontana Regional Library Board, which is comprised of 9 people, 3 from each county, will have had an almost complete turnover in the last year. The only 2 people on the board who will have served longer than a year will be myself and Mr. Monnet, and Lori will be the next, and you'll be at a year or a little over. So September was her first year, so she's not served a year yet. So that means that 7 of the 9 board members will basically be new since September, and the majority since this spring. This is actually Miss Kathy Smith's first meeting as a member of our board of trustees. She knew what she was getting into and she volunteered. I'm just saying. So because of that, because we've had this almost complete turnover, we are planning to have a board retreat in September. We haven't scheduled it yet, but our plan is September, where we can provide information and knowledge and resources to all of our board members to baseline us all on the processes, policies, and finances of Fontana Regional Library and all 6 of our libraries, and as well as our staff and the processes at the headquarters, because we're in a learning process right now. I would say it's a rebuilding year if I was a football coach, because we've got to get the team back up and operating at full speed. We're operating now, we're making things happen. In the last 2 years, we have reviewed a number of policies and processes, including we have updated the child safety policy, the collection development policy twice, and we've implemented a juvenile library card, which took quite a lot of work with the State Library of North Carolina to get implemented. So that took effect on May 1st. And we're actively working a revision to the circulation policy right now. It's in committee, and that committee hopes to bring it to our board for vote in July. We'll also be forming some committees in July, including a finance committee, which has been an ad hoc committee at times, to look at our budget and to look at our finances, not from the perspective of compliance with state and federal laws and our regional agreement, but to look at it from the perspective, is there a way that we could squeeze more effectiveness and efficiency out of that money, and also to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the citizens of Swain, Jackson, and Macon County from a finance perspective. I do also want to point out, to make sure that you're aware, and that anyone who's watching this video or live stream is aware, that in accordance with the Fontana Regional Library Agreement, both the regional director and the finance officer work directly for the Fontana Regional Library Board of Directors. So any concerns or questions about their performance or any issues with them should be addressed to this board that is in front of you, because that is who they work for. And we welcome that information. To date, we've not gotten any. But we would appreciate that coming to us, because that is who they work for. And also, any concerns or questions about anything happening in the operations of any of the 6 libraries in the Fontana Regional Library System should be addressed to the regional director or to the Board of Trustees as per the regional agreement. We are responsible for the operations of all the libraries. All of our Fontana Regional Library policies are available on our website, in addition to our audits and our budget. And I would encourage you and anyone else who would like to learn more to review them, and we'd be happy to set up meetings to deep dive into any of them. It's my hope that we'll leave this meeting today with a better understanding of the specific concerns that you have as commissioners in Jackson County, and that you will have a better understanding of the opportunities and limitations we have as a Regional Library Board of Trustees. Thank you for this time.
With that, we'll go ahead and just go into general discussion. And my first is of the things that requires people to I mean, obviously you're all residents of your counties, full-time residents. Is there anything other or anything else that is required of a citizen to volunteer for the regional library? Do we require library cards? Do we require conflict of interest statements, anything of those natures?
Members of the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees are appointed by the county commissioners. I'm not privy to what vetting process you use within your county to appoint the board members. To date, I am aware that there are some board members who have been appointed in the recent past from some counties that did not have an active library card at the time they were appointed. And there were one from each county at this point after Tuesday night's Swain County meeting, who were not previously members appointed by their county advisory board. Okay. That does put a really steep learning curve on the people who are appointed, but I will say that the current members of the Fontana Regional Library Board are what I would consider to be an incredibly impressive group of professionals and individuals. There's not a one up here that didn't volunteer. Yep. And volunteering for a board is a really big deal. It takes a lot of time. And this one right now, since everyone except for Tony and I joined recently, within the last 6 to 9 months, they knew it was a hot button issue that was getting a lot of attention in the community, and they were willing to put themselves up for that scrutiny. And they've all been working incredibly hard to get up to speed on the laws that govern the general statutes, and there is training available through the State Library of North Carolina that all of our trustees have done now, except for, I think, Kathy, but she'll do it soon if she didn't do it today.
Requirement
Yeah.
from the state to
It
go
is
through
not
that
a
training?
requirement, but it is highly recommended. It's an online training. And then also to read through all the policies and processes. I mean, you can see Deborah has her binder, Bill has his binder full of all the policies, processes, laws, budget, Robert's Rules of Order. All of those things to make sure that we are informed so that we can make the best decisions when we're voting on things as our board. I'll also point out that the experience, the life experience and business experience that the members of this board bring is really, I mean, to me, it's really amazing. When we're together, it's a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, just not a lot of experience yet about the libraries, but it'll be there. I'm confident it will. It just will take a little bit of time, just like it took time when each of you first joined the Board of Commissioners and needed to go through training and get up to speed on the processes and policies of governing your county. Is there a conflict of interest statement? Yes, the state does require that. Because we're not elected officials and we are considered part of local government, we are required to sign a conflict of interest statement by the state. We're not required to fill out a financial disclosure form. So that's unlike the Southwestern Community College Board, and that is because we don't own any property. The counties own the property. And so since the counties own the buildings and the property, we do not have to sign the financial disclosure that Southwestern Community College Board does. We do also have an ethics statement that we chose as a board, I believe December of 2024, to put in place, or maybe 2023, to put in place after there were some questions. And that's not unlike what most nonprofits as well as most government entities have, an ethics policy. Because it's a policy from the board can change it when we want to, because it's our policy.
Do you have a copy of that ethics policy?
It's on our website.
Okay. I got another question. You say the directors work directly for you?
They work, yes.
Ms. Tracy would be a director? Okay.
She is the only director. She is our regional director.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's a full-time job?
No, that's a part-time job. We do not have the resources to have a full-time regional director.
What are the hours required for that part-time job? 40, that's what I thought. Yeah.
He doesn't get paid as a full-time employee, I can assure you of that.
And, okay, if she answers directly to y'all, then if Jackson County pays her for what she does for us, then who does she answer to with that?
She answers to the regional director, because all of the 70 employees of Fontana Regional Library work for Fontana Regional Library. None of the employees of Fontana Regional Library work for any of the counties. None of them are county employees.
So she answers to the regional director
As the,
librarian of Jackson County?
that's correct.
So
Even
she
though
answers to
Jackson County,
herself?
even though Jackson
Yes.
County
So
pays
she
her.
answers
And
to
then she
herself.
answers to us, the Fontana Regional Library Board
And
of
Jackson
Trustees.
County would be a full-time job as well.
Jackson County Librarian is a full-time job. So let me give you a little history on that, because I asked that same question when I got appointed to the board. In 2006, when Gail Finley retired as the full-time regional director of Fontana Regional Library, the Board of Trustees at that time, none of whom I think are in this room right now, but at that time, realized they didn't have the funding to pay for both a regional director who was full-time and 3 county librarians full-time. And they chose then to dual hat one of their county librarians as the regional director. They did it solely to save money, not because it was the right thing to do or the most efficient or effective course of action. At that time, it was the Macon County librarian who was selected. I personally don't think that that is the right course of action. I wish we hadn't done that back in 2006, and I say we because it wasn't me. I mean, we weren't on the board then. But there have been 2 regional directors since that time. It has several problems. One is it doesn't allow the individual to put the time and attention to either of the positions that they're in. Although I will say both of the regional directors have done admirably at it, it's just they obviously work more than 40 hours a week. And they're not being compensated adequately for the amount of work they're doing.
But you wouldn't say they would work 80 hours a week?
I doubt that very seriously. Although I do know that my emails get responded to and my texts do as well, more than I would like to if I was her.
Kind of the day and age. though.
Yeah. I'll also point out that right now, if we were to pursue separating that back out, which I personally would like to do, it would require more funding to do that, because we'd have to be able to hire. But what it would allow us to do is consider candidates more than just the 3 county librarians. Right now, if Tracy retires tomorrow, the only qualified candidates we can entertain for this job would be the Macon County librarian or the Swain County librarian, or a new Jackson County librarian. We wouldn't have the opportunity to look at any other candidates outside other than somebody new coming into Jackson County. So it really limits, from an HR perspective, the pool of applicants.
I got you.
And quite honestly, I don't think that the Board of Trustees, at the time they made the decision, it was solely a money decision, and I don't think they thought about the long-term consequences of trying to save money and the impact it could potentially have in the future.
And so I'm assuming that the salary and wages of the FRL comes from the 400 and some thousand you get from the state? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. We have 4 full-time employees for Fontana Regional Library Headquarters and 2 part-time, although Tracy would say that the regional director is also full-time, but like I said, the salary is not a full-time salary that goes for that. It's 2 separate contracts.
Will you summarize what those 4 employees do?
Sure. I mean, there are 4 employees. There's our finance officer, who I've already told you about.
Finance and.
Yeah, there's a
director.
finance assistant.
Yeah.
There's an administrative assistant. There's an IT director. And then we have a courier, and we have a regional director. Is that correct, Tracy? Yeah. And quite honestly, besides finance, the most important of those is the courier, in terms of the people of Swain County, Jackson County, and Macon County, because he's the guy who carries the books around. But I'd also say the IT guy, because if we didn't have the internet that everybody loves so much, they would be really unhappy.
So the courier, the IT director, the finance officer, finance assistant, and what was the 5th
An
one?
administrative assistant,
And what is their job?
the same as an administrative assistant in any organization. They do everything that nobody else does.
Kind of like, what would that be? What would be walk me through their day?
You know, answering phone
Walk me through
calls.
their day.
Why do you need me to walk you through an
just curious
administrative
what they
assistant's
did.
day? I think that's a detail level that should be done offline, because we can provide you their position description if you'd like that. But, I mean, I think that's a waste of time, to quite honestly.
That's why we're here. We're here to learn your process as a regional system.
This is the agenda
Now,
that
hang
I
on
got.
just a second.
Hang on.
Hang on just a second.
It
Hold
does
up,
not
hold up,
say
order,
we're gonna go
order.
through everything.
Just 1 second, Ms. Morse. All of these are available online. I went through and I was able today in 5 minutes to Google Ms. Fitzmaurice's, I just put Fontana Regional Library Director, was given the job description. So you can find them online. They're not private or anything like that.
And if I had
So-
been told that was a topic of discussion tonight, we could have brought them and provided them all to you.
Well, I didn't know what I was gonna ask. I just happened to think of this, and I
mean-
thought, well, within your
I will-
board.
I will email Kevin King all
Yeah.
the job
Yeah.
descriptions.
Yeah.
Having discussions about the Fontana Regional Library System. I don't think that's a huge ask, because some of that state aid that comes is Jackson County state aid, so, I think that's a reasonable question.
No, it's not. Because the money that goes to Fontana Regional Library is as a regional library system, and that is different. The money that goes to counties is different.
$409,000. So just say if Jackson County had its own, library system, would we receive state aid?
If you applied for it, you would, but I have no idea what number that would be.
$409,000.
I don't know what you're talking about.
About a quarter of it,
There you go.
25%.
I do want to come into the, back to what Mark said about the appointment process and if there's any guidelines. Somebody spoke the other night and stated that we illegally appointed 2, maybe 3 board members. And I'm glad that you went over the process, and that's on us. So in your view, any of the board members' view, did we illegally appoint any of our members from Jackson?
No one on this board is an attorney, and so we can't speak to whether something is illegal or legal, but I'm not aware of anything. I would turn to our attorney who's back here. Are you aware of anything, anyone being appointed not in compliance with the regional agreement?
Hi, Brady Large. I do work for the Fontana Regional Library on a pro bono basis now. It's a pleasure to have been called upon. I am not aware of any illegalities in the appointment of the current board. 2004 agreement that everyone entered into gives a lot of power to the county commissioners. and who-
2024.
2024, excuse me. Gives a lot of power to the county commissioners on who they appoint to the board. You guys pretty much can appoint whomever you wish.
Mhm.
So I don't know of any illegalities
So,
that took
I think I heard somebody brought that up near the end of our meeting Tuesday, that we illegally appointed members to the board. So thank you for bringing that up. So I think we're all legal. I hope Mr. Cubis is somewhere here. We just want to make sure we're
Thank you.
staying legal,
My
on the
knowledge,
legal
all
path.
the board members are the.
That's good, that's great. I hope the public hears that. So that.
Mr. Bryson, I'm right behind you.
All right. Somewhere.
In regards to, like specific actions within the Fontana Regional Library and how things are transferred, how things are run, from programming to, well, let's just stick with programming. Is each library independent on their programming, or is that given at the direction of Mrs. Morrison, the director? Is it, I'll just start with that.
I'm going to ask Tracy to address that, because she manages the day-to-day operations of the libraries.
Yeah, all of our,
Tracy, can you pull the, thank you.
like, it won't come any closer. All of our programming is done from each of the libraries. Thank you. All of our program links to our long-range plan, which is filed with the State Library of North Carolina. It's part of our state aid application. You have to have a 5-year long-range plan. And all of our programming that we do is linked to that long-range plan.
And your current plan was adopted in
2022 to 2027.
Okay, so y'all are probably getting ready to begin another long-range plan
Yes,
process.
yes.
Most of the items that were action items on that plan as it exists now have either already been completed or they've become OBE. However, we need the bandwidth, we needed to have a stable board, and we need the bandwidth to be able to start that long-range planning process, both on the part of the staff of the libraries as well as the board, because as you know from long-range planning, it takes a lot of effort, and we want to make sure we get it right.
What's the driver for y'all's next 5 years? I mean, that's important.
Exactly. And so we are planning to start it before this one ends, and that is going to be a huge topic at our retreat in September, is to figure out the way ahead on that.
Is that a contracted kind of aid? So someone outside the library comes in and helps?
Yes, we had I was part of Ellen and I were part of the most recent one. She steps off, by the way, June 30th, but it is replaced by a new commissioner. But we were part of the last long-range planning effort, and it was a hired facilitator who was an expert at working with libraries here in North Carolina that assisted us with the development of that.
Does that come with some directive from your local library boards? Like, does Macon kind of have an idea of what they would like to see in their library? And
So the strategic planning process does include a needs assessment, which goes out, and it included extensive data gathering from both the county commissioners, from the citizens at large, from the patrons of the libraries, from the advisory boards, as well as from the staff of the libraries, as well as all the partners. So things like the health department, the sheriff's office, the social services, basically all the different things, as well as some of the nonprofits that are partners in our communities. I would assume it would be very similar to the way that you do your, I mean, strategic planning is pretty much the same wherever. The specifics of how a plan might be written would differ based on what the purpose is. But certainly, when we start that process, you'll definitely know, because we'll be asking you for input.
Will that be 2026? I'm guessing y'all will
Yes.
begin that process and try and wrap it
Yes.
up before the end of the
Yes.
fiscal year. Okay.
Assuming the board agrees to that in
Right.
September when
Yeah.
we, in our, yes, as we move forward.
Like, how does the needs of the county change, like in the next 5 years? Like, what would be different that they would need that you don't already have?
Not real sure. I mean, that's part of the planning process. I mean, it could be technology needs, it could be demographic changes. I know in Swain County, because I've looked at that, and I'm also on the Southwestern Community College Board, and we were in the process of a strategic planning process there. It's looking at things like demographics, where Swain County, the average age is continuing to go up as our younger people leave and older people are retiring here. And so it's changing what courses, for instance, at the community college people want to access. It's also changing what businesses exist in our community, and what the jobs are that are primarily available in our community. So all of those things would change. Technology, like I said, is certainly changing, and that's something we would need to be looking at. I can't even imagine what the others are, but I know that the strategic planning process would inform that as we got feedback from our partners and our customers would hopefully tell us what they think we need to change and what we would need to be looking towards. I don't know, do any of the other board members have anything they want to add to that?
I mean, we're always changing. I mean, it's 10 years ago, it was a different makeup in this area, and now it's completely rolling in. I mean, you see it with increases in children or decreases in children, with businesses coming and going. So I think that the strategic plan is vital for the success of the library. I mean, if ADM's going down at schools, you can reduce that size of the children's area. If IT is the direction that needs to be taken, you move that there. So, you know, there's a lot that can be done within that strategic plan that'll help all three counties. So, in going through process, I noticed, you know, if there was an appellate of a book, and if a citizen said this book is not what I feel should be in our libraries, what is that process? Just for everyone, so what are the qualifications to bring that book to surface and say, I don't want this?
I'll just say that is covered in our collection development policy. That policy is available on the website. You can also go to the front desk at any of our 6 libraries and ask the staff member there for a copy of that policy. We have forms available at all of the front desks, or you can print it off from the website that steps you through how to file a request for reconsideration of materials within the library. And I believe Tracy is probably handing that to y'all right now, so that you would have an opportunity to see that. That policy has been updated twice in the last 2 years. The first time it was updated, I chaired the board of the committee, chaired the committee that updated it. The second time, most recent, which is the date at the bottom of that page, it was Mr. Monnet here who chaired that. And so that is the policy as it currently exists. All of our policies are living documents because the board does control them. And we, like I said, we are actively reviewing right now the circulation policy with a committee chaired by Ms. Richards. And so if we need to look at, I'll be honest, the board has not been able to focus on regular routine updates of our policies over the last couple of years because we've been pulled in so many different directions by renegotiating the regional agreement and some other topics that needed to take priority. And it's my goal, if I'm elected the chair, like I said, I'm acting right now. I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to start something as an acting, but I've been nominated to be the chair starting in July. If I'm elected, I would like to start a regular drumbeat of review of all of our policies to make sure that they are still accurate and current and reflect what's needed by our 3 counties, and if not, to form a committee to go and update that policy.
If a citizen wanted to, first step is fill out the document,
Yes.
and then it goes to the regional board,
No.
or does it go to
Tracy,
the?
would you step them through that process, please?
Push any, oh no, it's automatic. The first step is often someone will come up to the desk with a concern. Sometimes just listening to their concerns and explaining maybe why the book's in the collection or anything is enough, and they don't want to continue with a official challenge. Once they do an official challenge, it comes to me as the director, and I review the challenge. As you'll see on the challenge form, they have to say why the book does not conform with, reviewed by an attorney to make sure, as you know, a lot of challenges are happening across the nation. We wanted to make sure it was a legally tight policy so that we are not put in any legal jeopardy or any litigation. And so this one has been reviewed by an attorney and approved by an attorney. Yeah.
Does this board see the book at all before, like after your recommendation? Does the board get a copy?
Yeah, they usually want to see it, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
like unfortunately, with the position you're in, being the librarian and the director,
Mhm.
there's only one opinion there.
No,
Well, you said if it goes to the librarian first,
But it could
is
be
a complaint.
county library.
And then if it goes to the director.
There've
In
been-
Jackson County, there's only
Yeah, there've been
one opinion.
5 books that have been challenged since I've been on the board in the 4 years. 4 of those were in Macon County, 1 was in Jackson County. All of those came to the board, even the one where the librarians said, we agree with, with the person. They all came to the board for at least a report or for the board to take a vote. And the board members at that time, like I said, most of these people were not on the board for those reviews, but we each got the book, we passed it around so that we could read it ourselves and review it.
So, I guess, I see your flow that you're talking about, but for example, if a librarian, no matter who you are, decided that it was didn't need to be looked at any further and they just put it back on the shelf, would it stop there?
No.
Okay, if it goes to the director and they decide, does it stop there?
No,
They don't make that, the director does not.
it has to
decide.
come to the
It has to
board.
come to the board.
I guess
You
I
can-
just
I mean,
don't
it's
see
very
why
clear in
it
the
wouldn't
collection
go to the
development
librarian
policy.
And then just go to the board, but, I don't know, I guess it does go to the
It follows the
director.
chain of command.
Yeah.
So,
That's-
Tony,
that's
did
the
you
main
want to
thing I
add
wanted.
anything on that since you chaired the committee that rewrote that? I know you dove deep into that to make sure that we had a policy that complied with all of the relevant state and federal laws and statutes, but also that was going to be an executable policy within our 6 libraries.
Yeah, I would just say that we did put a lot of time into it, and it's good. It's a legal document, and I think what we really want to address here, is it fair? Is that the question? Does it cover both sides? Well, as the chair of that committee, I was curious, the first challenge that came up after we instituted the policy was a biography about Mark Robinson. And this board voted that it should stay in the collection. I think that says something to the policy, that it's fair.
And I don't know, maybe Tracy has more historical knowledge, being the director and with the turnover. In your history or your time with Fontana Regional Library, how many books have been, and this may be reaching, but challenged and overturned or left?
I'm not aware of any book that's ever been removed.
Okay.
We didn't have any challenges for, 10+ years until 2022, I believe. There's been about,
COVID was
2021.
21, 22, yeah. But yeah, people were doing a lot of online at home and all that. I think that's where a lot of that got.
But there wasn't a
seen.
challenge 10 years before 2022, so that moves it to 2012. That's pre-COVID, so.
No, I'm just saying, I think though, when they had challenges or any library, the books is when parents could see what was being displayed to their kids.
So, on the content, I know you went into some stuff, but on the content itself, what comes in new, who approves the new stuff, new books coming in?
That's in the collection development policy. It spells out how books are chosen.
I understand that. There's some people in the public today. Who approves that?
Tracy, would you please address that?
each county has a librarian, and So for example, at the Jackson County Public Library, we have two departments, the children's and the adult. And the children's supervisor, she chooses the books for that department. She is trained to do that. She uses the peer-reviewed journals that we receive to do that, or patron requests. And in the adult collection, it's the same. The person has been doing collection development for probably 16 years and does it through peer-reviewed journals, what patrons are requesting, things like that.
You said committee, or is it just one individual for both
Well,
adult and the children?
it's usually, so for example, in the adult collection, we'll talk about that first. There is a supervisor in that department. He is the one that places the order. That order may be developed by anyone can add a book. So if I work on the front desk and I get 10 requests for a certain book, I'm going to email the supervisor in that department and say, hey, this is really popular, we don't have it, could you add it to the collection? And you know, if you have a library with 20 people, there may be some people that read sci-fi, there may be some people that read romance or Christian fiction, and they all help cover all of the areas that we serve.
Is there an audit on those books? So like if one isn't getting checked out, does it get removed or rotated out? And is there a standard for that? I
There
guess?
is, it's called weeding. We weed the collection. That is also covered in the policy. Basically what happens is there are certain areas that need more attention: medical books, legal books, financial books. You know, you don't want old medical information on a shelf. So we weed those very regularly. We do a full weeding of our collection about once every year or two. And we run a report, and if a book hasn't been out in 3 years, it's removed from the collection. Unless it's something like, you know, a standard like a history of Jackson County or something. You know, there are certain books we just keep whether they go out or not.
Is there any citizen policy
To the collection policy, no.
when you're going to order books? I mean, it seems to me it'd be,
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean when we
rep-
order books, not the policy?
right, the
Yes.
representation of the books that you're going to.
Yes, yeah, we get,
You know, just individuals in the community, not specific individuals, just.
yeah, anyone, we get emails, we literally have an email for, if you're interested in a book, we don't have it, they can email there. Every day at the front desk, people are saying, I just finished this, I want to read their older one, you know, and we'll get it. Luckily, being part of the NC Cardinal Consortium, if we don't have it, chances are one of the other 63 counties will. And so we can bring it in that way and save money from, we couldn't possibly buy every new book.
So they can give input on what they would like to see.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is, once you collect a number of books that you're going to order,
Mhm.
is there any review by the community or anybody else, or is it just say, no, I'm going to order that?
No, it's built through staff input, community input, and we just order them.
And that is covered in the collection development policy, that that is the way it operates. And that's a pretty normal way for libraries to operate. Because it's a fairly routine thing to buy new books and rotate books out.
Mhm. And we do have training on it. There is instruction for people that, you know, that's something that they go to classes for. All of our employees do continuing education, so they're up to date on all the new information.
We do have checks and balances and risk management processes to make sure that money is being spent on exactly what it's supposed to be being spent on, and that we are in fact receiving what is ordered. I was assuming that could be your next question on making sure that the money, I mean, that is part of what our finance officer and our finance assistant do, is make sure that the internal policies on who can make a purchase, how much they can purchase, when they can purchase, are being followed, and that in fact we are receiving what has been approved to be purchased. So that process is there in place and is looked at.
With the nonprofits of local Friends of Library type organizations, do they, when they order books for the libraries, is that reviewed as well within that same process, or is it just based on what those individuals want, since they're separate?
They
No,
do,
They don't. I
they
mean,
don't order books,
yeah,
they give money.
No. But there are people who donate books. There are people who, have a good heart, want to share, and they choose to purchase books and donate to the libraries, either an individual library or the library system as a whole. There are also people who make donations, either cash or something like that, to purchase things, and sometimes they will specify, just like any other donation at a charity, they may specify they want it used for children's art supplies for programs, at Hudson Library. Or they may say they want it used for children's art supplies at all the libraries. So I mean, we succeed at making sure that that money is spent for what someone designates. There are donations sometimes made to individual libraries that are to the general fund, where the librarians can choose to use that where it's most needed. So if it's needed for toilet paper, they get toilet paper. If it's needed for construction paper, they get construction paper. Tracy, could you please address what happens when books are donated to the library?
Sure. I will add to something Cynthia said. When the auditors come for the state audit, they also audit, they ask to see the order carts for all the books we get, and for us to prove that they are in the collection. It's a quite lengthy process, but that is something I do each year. So if someone walks in with a donation, it has to follow our collection development policy. A lot of people come into the library with books they very much cherish and they want to donate, but they may be very old or outdated or in poor shape, so we wouldn't add those. Some people might have a brand new book they bought at the airport or something, and we don't have it, and we go through the process, and if it fits in with our collection development policy, we will add it to the collection. That is counted as a separate donation and reported to the state as a donation, not a purchase.
Will it ever wind up in Cardinal system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everything in our building, I guess apart from the people, is pretty much in Cardinal.
So if I had a book and I donated it, it could eventually, would it stay with FRL, or it could go just wherever? If Yancey County needed it and they were part of NC Cardinal, it could be picked up and
It can
moved?
go anywhere.
Okay.
So our new books, they have to stay within FRL for 6 months. That protects those new books because they're very popular, and we want to make sure our local communities have first access. After 6 months, any of our books, let me preface, any of our books apart from reference books or things that are special collection or in a barrister that needs to be protected, can travel anywhere in Cardinal.
They do come back.
Yes, they do come back.
'Cause I know a lot of people that have donated books. I didn't know if they would wind up in Cardinal system, and
Yes, yeah. I didn't bring the number with me, but we do have to report the number of donations separately to the state as opposed to books we purchase.
There's been some comment, I'm just trying to remember some of the main comments from some of the folks that spoke. That, one was, in particular, was the Fontana Regional Library System gives Jackson County Library $1.4 million. Money sources, revenues, as a library system. Do y'all collect any other monies as far as grants? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're not prepared to go into details on the budget today,
And
because
finance not here.
right, the finance officer's not here. But I can tell you that in addition to the funding that comes from the individual counties, the majority of which vast majority of which is spent on salaries and benefits for the employees at those libraries. We do get grant funding from the state. We get grant funding from private nonprofits and, public entities. We get donations from the Friends of the Library of each of the counties. We sometimes get money from foundations that are associated with the different libraries, like Hudson Library has a separate, Hudson Library in Highlands has a separate foundation that provides certain things for that library. We also get individual donations, everything from $25 when somebody shows up at the library and just wants to help.
The reason I'm asking, I just didn't know if I was missing something really big that, a grant that y'all received, because pretty much the majority of y'all's the money of the regional system comes from Jackson, Macon, and Swain counties. Is that right? Is that correct? And state aid?
And the state aid, yeah.
The majority of the money.
Well, the FRL staff
It's separate.
is separate, headquarters staff
No, I'm
is
just
paid by
asking
the
the
state.
full budget of what,
No, but like
Money's
the
at
people
the-
in the community don't know this, and they need to understand that Jackson County gives the Jackson County Library $1.4 million per year.
what I'm getting at is
People don't know that.
comments that I've heard is that the FRL is receiving additional funding, past county funds, past state funds, and past like donations, Friends of the Library. Is there anything, some big number that you can think of that the FRL receives?
I did write a grant in 2024 for a digital inclusion state. It was the North Carolina Digital Inclusion grant, and it was $300,000 that I
You
received.
received that?
Yes,
Was that used for Jackson County or?
for
or
all
the-
libraries.
For all three libraries?
Is that
For all
in
6
1 year?
libraries.
Is that all in 1 year? or
2 years.
district?
So split up 150 or 300?
No, I get the 300. It's an unusual grant. Rather than being reimbursed, I have to, every 3 months, I have to project what is going to be spent and get that money. And but it goes until December of 2026.
But for the services of, say, we'll come back to Jackson County Library, our 1.4 million that Jackson County allocates is used for Jackson County's library, correct?
Yes, about 96% of it is for employee salaries and wages, and the rest is operations.
Okay, that's great. There's been a whole lot of comments on that topic.
It is streamed, every library has a funding stream, and the monies never cross.
With Jackson County, the Silva Library gets $972,611 for salary and wages,
Mhm.
and Cashers gets a little over $300,000.
Yeah, I seen the budget, looked at it, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Yeah, I was
as
gonna
far
say
as
that,
revenues.
yeah, the budget is out there.
I've
We
seen
did
it.
just
I just
vote
want
to
the
approve
people in
ours
the
last
community
week.
to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the lady that spoke, she was just mistaken. She thought that FRL provided $1.4 million to Jackson County. That's what she stated, and it's
Okay,
actually the opposite.
Well, and I've heard different people bring up that the FRL's getting this and that and this and that, and I'm thinking, where's it at on this sheet, and that's why I'm asking that question.
And we'd be happy to set up a meeting with our finance officer to go more in detail on it.
I met with Kevin on it, and we went, and I'd looked at it before, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin has been in very close contact with Lynn, Cody, our finance officer, because he's been trying to make sure that he provided all of the information that's been requested by Jackson County.
He's done good, he's done well. I just wanted to clarify the people in here and clarify to myself that I wasn't missing anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, there you go. So you were talking about the amount of money, and I've heard from watching y'all's live streams that you were talking about maybe others, y'all are giving a lot, others could give more. And I think we need to clarify that it's not a pool of money. So what you do, you do. What Macon decides to do, they do. So just for example, Swain County, the librarian is asked for the budget request, comes up with a request. And then, of course, the county takes it into consideration with everything else you are considering. You could flatline, you could go up a little bit or not. So just as an example, and it's easy for Swain because it's just the one library. So the allocation, the appropriation was $255,000. The budget is,
I was talking about Jackson.
I know, but I'm
Oh,
just saying,
I
I'm just
got you.
giving Swain
Yeah,
as
yeah,
an
yeah.
example.
I got you.
So the full budget for Swain is 322, which comes in from other contributions from friends and other boards and grants. So $255,000. If that is the county appropriation. If you take salaries and wages, 401k match, FICA, group insurance, and retirement, it's $255,720. I mean, you can basically see, and I think that's the way it is with other libraries as well. It's just a little easier example with Swain because it's just that.
And I can imagine you can tell the difference in the services from library to library.
Of course. It's
Sizes of
a
libraries
question
or-
of a size of library and also staff.
Well, and also, I mean, it's the size of the library, but the
Services.
services, the hours, because the number of hours that you're open and what services are available during those hours. But I'll also point out that the library in Silva is a multi-story library, and so it does require more staff to be on site in order to provide the proper coverage. And so that is why, I mean, and I believe it is the largest library in our system.
Macon County Public Library used to be, but they got flatlined for like 6-7
Yeah,
years.
so they had
and,
to cut back
They
some
had to cut
services.
stuff and services and hours.
Is there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Tracy, for the three, so you're the director for all three libraries, correct? So when you're getting monies from Jackson, Swain, and Macon, how do you balance all that as far as, I know Jackson, we're given 1.4, a little over, the services and the employees, and then you go to Swain and they get maybe less because of the lack of maybe funding from the county commissioners or, lack
It's
of.
just a smaller library.
I know that, but how do you, I don't know
So
how do you balance everything out as far as
Each of
keeping our
the-
services going and keeping their
Mhm.
services going? It's different times,
Yeah.
libraries are open at different times.
the county librarians are in charge of their budgets.
Right.
They're the ones that make those decisions. And then we get together to see, there are some things we split costs on, obviously. So we divide certain things by percentages because it wouldn't be fair for each library to pay an equal amount because, like I have a lot more computers than they do in Bryson City. So we break things down by percentages, but each county librarian works out the budget for their own county. And then that money is put into the FRL budget, and Lynn adds the other layer, and we oversee that together.
And the budget that they put together, do they present it to the board, or they present it to you as a director, or they just have that authority to go directly to the commissioners?
We review it, me and Lynn Cody, but, they've been doing it for quite some time. They know what they need, they explain it, and then they turn it in to their counties.
Yeah, I just got another question from what he said. So the money that Jackson County gives, the 1.4 million, does it stay in Jackson County Library, or do y'all pool it, does the FRL pull it together?
There is no
It stays in
pooling.
Jackson
Yeah.
County? Okay.
There is,
Okay.
we have
I
one.
just heard you say percentages, and that's what I didn't
Yeah,
understand.
no, what I meant is if we are buying a database, it makes sense for the 3 counties to share it rather than pay 3 individual times.
So we're kind of giving our funds to other counties?
Absolutely not. No,
Won't
that's
they
what
share it?
that's what I'm explaining. Say something cost $1,000.
Mhm.
Jackson County might pay
We pay
340.
I got you. I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
So we divide it up so that we would pay a little bit more, but it's because our population is so much bigger. It's,
No.
it's the most
I
equal
will
way to do
clarify,
it.
because this was a deep dive discussion we had at our meeting last Tuesday night, where we adopted our budget for the next fiscal year. And it was Bill McGahad from Macon County who pointed out that when you do a deep dive into our budget, as posted on our website, that you do see that there are things like fines and fees, I'll use that as an example, that when someone goes into the library and they bring their book in late and they pay their fine, that money gets collected, and that a portion of that money in past budgets, and in the current one for now, has also gone, a little bit of that has gone as an administrative fee to the region, because the region is who, the finance officer and finance assistant are the ones who are managing that process and taking the actions and accounting for it, so it's kind of an administrative fee. Our board is going to need to address that, because you could interpret that to be that that's money that the people of Jackson County are paying in their fines and fees, and so the money they pay in fines and fees. But it's a fairly small amount of money given the overall budget, but we are going to address that in the finance committee, and our board is aware of that. You know, so I mean, we are taking action. As I said, our board members are learning, and they're discovering things, and they're bringing it up, and we're going to take action on those things that we're learning, and make a conscious decision of how we're going to go forward, not just do it that way because it's always been that way.
Tracy, this may be a question for you. On the services that's provided to Jackson County, Swain, or no, let's just stay in Jackson County. The services that is provided to Jackson County, can you go through that, just the highlights? That way the public that is concerned that Jackson County's paying more than Swain, Macon, that we're getting what we're paying for. Can you just hit the highlights?
Let me just clarify, when you say services, you mean from the headquarters?
No.
Okay.
Jackson County Library.
Yes.
And I know the big driver, like I say, I've looked at the budget. The big driver is staff.
Mhm.
But dive into that a little bit and tell us why you need the staff, that many staff, employees, 21, whatever it was.
Mhm.
So if you don't care.
Yeah, no, sure. We have 17 full-time and 4 part-time, and 4 full-time and 3 part-time and cashiers. As you know, cashiers fluctuates in their population during the summer, so we always have some part-time people there in the summer. It was a part of the discussion when in 2009 or 10, they decided to move the library into that building. They, because of a 2-story building, you do need more staff. We also staff the courthouse side of the building when there is programming. And we are also open more hours than any of the other libraries in Fontana Regional Library.
I don't mean to interrupt you, I want you to keep going, but on the hours, was that requested by the public? Or is that something that you
Yes.
felt was necessary?
Yeah, I want to say it was 2020, 2021 maybe. When you're up there in the morning, you know, our town here is much busier than
Right.
a lot of towns, and we used to open at 10 o'clock, and a lot of people would say, oh, we wish you were open at 9 o'clock, and we looked at our staffing. We were able to rearrange it so that certain staff could get in earlier, so we do open at 9 now, and we are open 6 days a week till 8 o'clock a couple of nights. So we do have really good hours for the community.
Continue on the services that Jackson County provides out of that 1.4 and all the staff. And then I also want to get on the community rooms too after this, but if you'll go ahead on.
You mean what services we?
Jackson County, not a regional.
Oh, wow.
Just the highlights.
Just the highlights. Well,
Yeah.
obviously books, checking books in
Of
and out.
course, absolutely.
I would say internet service,
Yeah.
technology training. A lot of people come to the library that have never used a computer before. We do a lot of that, teaching people how to get email addresses, how to apply for jobs, build resumes, things like that. We obviously do reference questions. We answer, I forget how many thousands a year, but we do have to report all of these statistics to the state library. We do outreach to places like the Department on Aging and a lot of other community places like Circles of Jackson, things like that. We do outreach to the schools. We do, story time, toddler time, art classes, cooking classes. I mean, the list is pretty extensive. A lot of educational stuff. Our mission is educational, recreational, and informational. So anything in those under that umbrella.
So the community rooms, tell us a little bit about that, of how much you charge. Is any of the charges waived for any certain, like a nonprofit or?
Yes, I wish I'd brought a copy of, we do have a contract, we have a policy, obviously. Our policies tend to support our mission. So our meeting space policy is no different. We charge, it is a little different from other libraries, but I will just speak to Jackson County Public Library right now. Nonprofits and community groups do not pay unless they're doing a fundraiser. And then there's like a nominal $25 charge for that. It's about,
You say $25?
yes. As long as it's not, if anything's after hours, even though they may not pay for the use of the room, they still have to pay $25 an hour to cover staff that have to stay when we're not open.
But if it's not a nonprofit, on average, do you know exactly, is it $200, $100?
So, depends how long they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's 0 to 4 hours is like 25 or 50, depending on whether it's a private or a birthday party. You know, there's lots of different categories, and I'm gonna write that down to send it to share with y'all. For big things like weddings, it's $300. And plus the $25 an hour, you know, a lot of people want to get married on a Saturday night or Sunday or things like that. The community room, we don't charge, obviously, if it's a county meeting. We don't charge if it's SEC or WCU needing it for something. We do all of our programs in there. It's even been used for court. Whenever the rooms here are full up, they do court in the room.
Makes sense, wouldn't it?
It does, it does. Does that
That's
cover
good.
it?
That's good
And
coverage.
then for the library, does the library pay their own utilities? And
No, the
maintenance?
county,
The county pays for that?
pays utilities and
And then
maintenance.
y'all pay the county how much to use the building?
You mean what our rent is? It's $1 a year.
$1 a year.
Yep, $1 a year for us and well, the county is supposed to supply the building, according to the statutes, I believe. I think it was a nominal $1 just to have something on the books. I think it costs more to mail the check than I should just bring you all a couple of dollars.
Is there any cleaning fee associated with these rentals?
Oh, the rentals, they have to take off all their trash and everything.
Okay.
And if they don't, the office manager will see to it.
The money that's brought in from those rooms, which I'm not imagining is a whole lot, but is that back to Jackson County, or does that go to the regional?
It's in our fines and fees line
fines
in
and
our
fees, so it
budget,
goes to the
and
regional for right now?
the fines and fees stays in our budget apart from 20%,
Oh, okay.
which goes to that. And,
20% goes to regional?
That was that administrative overhead that I talked about
Yeah.
that we're gonna be looking at as a board in July.
yeah, there are certain things that the regional library has to do. They have all of our financial software, which we also have on our computers in Jackson County. So again, rather than paying different subscriptions, they pay the one, and that 20% is that. Yeah.
And our meeting space policy, I just looked it up on our website, is dated 2012, and so that would be one that we would want to look at. A more thorough way with the new board. Well, I was gonna say, I'm not aware anybody's wanted to get married at the Nantahala Library yet. It is pretty small, but it has a lovely front porch now, the new space, if you haven't been there out on Wire Road, so maybe somebody will. I think the Jackson County Library, the Silva one, is the main place that people are asking, because it is a beautiful location.
While we're, excuse me, while we're on policy, is there a chance that, is it just a normal that, and it's a follow-up question from earlier, that just this individual or a couple of individuals or input from, say, some people to get new books, to purchase new books, is there a possibility that we can get a policy in place to where the folks that are reviewing the books to come into our library, maybe the advisory board of Jackson County, or is that against some type of state?
They are
regulation?
researching that right now in Yancey County because it's a holdup because they only meet 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
They are not trained. They do not have an MLIS or other training that the library folks have. They don't have that training.
It's definitely a topic that is being discussed all across the United States right now, as different states and different localities have taken different paths on how they identify books and or other media, whether it's, DVDs or puzzles or whatever it is that they're purchasing for their libraries, whether it's school libraries or whether it's public libraries. And there have been different choices made in different locations. A number of those are currently under litigation. There have been lawsuits, and so I would say that we as a board would, of course, address anything that's brought to the board to see what to do, but we would also be turning to our legal counsel to make sure that we were complying with what the state of North Carolina currently has in its laws, and that it was the right thing to do for the people of our communities in changing any policies. And that would be a change to our collection development policy.
Correct.
What does MLIS stand for? Media
Masters in Library and Information Science.
I'll admit, I personally would be hesitant to be the first out of the gate on any of these. I'd kind of want to wait and let the lawsuits settle, because we don't have money. Right now, Rady is working pro bono for being here tonight, but at some point, if we keep using him, he's going to need to get paid. And we don't have money in our budget for that. And so if we get sued as Fontana Regional Library, we're going to be coming back to the counties asking for you to help pay our legal bills.
I think there's also, I think some Bill just asked for, haven't we purchased 5,000, what was that number?
5,000 books since January.
Since January, so. if you're
More like 4,700.
4,700, but that's a lot that's why we leave it in the hands of the professionals to deal with it, because.
And you might have already hit this, but remind me, how often, I know there's a weed out process, but how often are new books purchased? Every year, every 6 months?
Every week.
Every week. And on average, how many?
Well, Fontana Regional Library as a whole.
Just Jackson County?
Just Jackson County, I would say on average on a week, probably 30, 40.
30, 40 books?
Yeah, maybe more.
And
It depends on the time of year.
And every week, the 30, 40 books comes in, and then 30, 40 books goes out?
No.
Okay.
Some books stay forever. They never get old. Others,
Eventually, I guess you have to weed some out. You run out of space.
we do.
30 or 40 a week?
Yeah.
And some-
FRL as a whole was about 4,700. since January until Monday, I think I told you that.
I hate to ask this, but I did ask for water at the beginning of the meeting, and now I have to, I would really appreciate if we could take a break.
Do we want to take a quick?
I'm sorry.
Maybe
I mean, I'm
10-minute
not
break?
sure whether, I mean, if
That's
you don't
fine.
have any more questions, I could probably power through. But if we do still have a lot more we want to cover tonight, I would personally appreciate a little bit of a break.
Questions are gonna be yet, all of them. So,
Make a motion, go into recess.
Let's take a quick 10-minute recess.
Okay, 10-minute recess, and I'll just
Alright.
remind my board that we need to not talk about anything, even though this is a working meeting, until we come back.
Cynthia,
Yes, sir.
through that door right there is the closest restroom.
All right, we'll go ahead and reconvene. Carrying on. Last we talked about where, it was, yeah, the books per week and, books since January was 4,700. Region-wide. Okay. When it comes to books that need to be reclassified, is it the same process as someone that wants to appeal the book? Does they fill out the appellate form and then turn that into the librarian, and then it goes through that? How many books have been reclassified within our libraries?
Could I ask you to clarify whether you mean just Jackson County or?
I think entirely. That's probably prudent, just in terms of,
Since like 2021?
let's say since 2020.
There have been there's been one that's been moved. Correct,
And
yeah.
there were a total of 5 that were reviewed.
There are a total of 5.
I think it's 6. I think it's 6, yeah.
And,
Conjunction. There it goes.
and
Okay.
that book that was reclassified, what was, in particular, do you remember the book that it was reclassified?
It was called Let's Talk About It.
And was that reclassified in all 3 libraries, as far as the region?
Yes, if a book is moved, it is moved in all libraries. But I'm not sure all the libraries had that book. I think 1 or 2 had it. There has been one book challenged in Jackson County.
Which book was that?
It's perfectly normal.
And what was the conclusion of that book?
It should stay where it is
Why?
because it was written for that age group, and if it was moved, the book is, it had been on the shelf for 11 or 12 years and had never had a challenge before, and it is written for that age group.
And I'm going to kind of stop you there because the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees voted on that. And so what you're asking is you're questioning the decision of the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees, most of whom are no longer on the board. And so we could go back in our minutes or we could watch the video from that meeting to see that. But quite honestly, I don't think it's appropriate for you to be questioning that.
I think it's 100% appropriate.
I don't.
Because it's Jackson County's tax dollar. It's 100% appropriate. That's why.
Well, the Fontana Regional Library Agreement delegates that authority to the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees.
That's why we're here tonight, ain't it? Because the Fontana Regional.
I don't know,
Board of
we're here
Trustees-
because y'all demanded a meeting and picked a date.
Fontana Regional Board of Trustees chose not to move a book that is
One book?
classified for, what age is it written for? 10 years old?
10 and up.
And it should not be.
So you're serious, the reason we're here spending this
Not for one
time
book.
is because one book 2 years ago didn't get moved? So
No.
what is the reason we're here?
So I'd just like to step in real quick and remind all participants of the meeting to be mindful of the rules of decorum that we're operating under tonight. Obviously, the purpose of this meeting is to get information. I think everybody's here in good faith. To the extent that we can keep things from bleeding into adversarial, I think that would benefit the group.
Who are you?
It's John Cubis.
My name is John Coops. I'm the Jackson County Attorney.
Thank you.
I think part of the reason that there's been only one book challenged is because even if you're taking your kid into the children's section, you're not gonna look at every book there. They don't know what all's in there. Nobody knows what every book that's in the library, I'm sure. So when one comes across and somebody finally does see it, they don't know about challenging it. All they do is talk about it around other people. I think that's part of the reason, because I promise you more of them would have been challenged if more people knew about them.
Order in the, I hate to say it, courtroom. But, so, feel free to go ahead, Mr. Jennings.
Well, we've got some stuff to show on this slide right here, things that are in question from us to you guys about what would be the big deal about moving those books that we're talking about.
That's not the process and the policy of Fontana Regional Library to do it this way. The forms need to be filled out so that we can follow the process and the policy.
I
I
understand
feel
that.
like it should probably be in closed session as well, just because of the sensitive nature of some of the, if we were going to look at these images.
Well, if it's that sensitive, why is it in the children's section?
If a 5-year-old can read it, why can these adults not look at it?
May I also just say one thing? When a book is moved to an area where it wasn't published for, you open yourself up for censorship challenges. You also move a book that was written for children into a different section, so they are going, if it's in an older section, those children are being led to be around books that are written for older age groups. And the library in Greenville, South Carolina did just that, and they are under heavy litigation now, and that is, again, something I need to avoid.
Who sets the age for books? Where is that done? Is that done by the author? Is that done by the state? Where does a book that's geared towards 10-year-olds become geared towards 10-year-olds?
The publishing companies.
The publishing companies? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely going to ask about a book that's in question, Ms. Womble. I'm elected by Jackson County, by the majority of Jackson County. So I will ask about the book, so you're not going to stop me right there.
I'm not going to stop you from asking, but I will ask you to please fill out one of the forms so that we can properly address
Order, please.
the book. We are an appointed board that's been delegated an authority
You are
and a
appointed,
responsibility.
and you are appointed. I'm elected, and I'm held responsible for our tax dollars.
As are we. We are fiduciarily responsible and have to have insurance just like
I
you
didn't
do.
stop you, and you're not going to stop me. Thank you.
So the publishing companies determine age appropriation or age appropriate materials. Is there any oversight at those publishers? Who gives them the authority to determine a book is geared towards a 10 to 12-year-old?
Most publishers, they publish books to certain ages. Different publishers do different ages. Candlewick Press is the publisher for that particular book. They are one of the best known publishers for children. It's in its 5th edition right now. It is, if the publishers, if they are challenged in court, they have won each time because the First Amendment covers all ages. And like I said, if a challenge is done, the book is reviewed, court cases are reviewed. There's a lot of that goes on in that review process. And in order to protect us from litigation and the county from litigation, and that's why we follow those rules.
It's not your personal choice. This is a book that's been set by the publisher, and you have to honor that. Otherwise, it will be a litigated endeavor.
I cannot say it would be litigated,
But
but
the
it has
potential-
happened across the country.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, that isn't to say that some books have been moved. Like I said, Let's Talk About It was moved. One of the ways I look at it is if a book is challenged, I see how many libraries across the nation has it, where they have it in the collection, and all of that process was followed when Let's Talk About It, when It's Perfectly Normal was challenged. And that's just part of the process, yeah. And ours is an older edition. The first edition we added to the library, I think in 1994. This one was added in 2014, and it had never been challenged before.
That's the one that we read and
Yes,
kept where it was.
yes.
That's the one that,
2014.
in 2014, or,
Yes.
or,
It was challenged in
2024.
2023, but it was added to our
2023.
collection.
in
Right.
addition?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's later editions out, but that is not the one that, what is out now is not what we saw. So,
Yeah, it's a different
different.
edition.
So it's you guys as a board's decision whether to move a book or not, if it's challenged, correct?
If it goes through the request for reconsideration process, it comes to this board, yes.
Okay? So there's 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 of you guys?
Correct. 3 from each county.
Do you guys oppose to looking at these slides?
I am, because it is not our process and our policy. We would be violating our policy as written if we were gonna do that. We also said that we were not gonna be doing any actions tonight, taking any votes or making any decisions. I believe that was the agreement, Mark, and you reiterated that this morning.
I'm not asking for any of those
No,
things.
may I also
A vote or
say,
anything.
that it is illegal to judge a book by 1 or 2 pictures or pages. It has to be judged as a book as a whole. That is the legal requirement through the Supreme Court.
That's almost like saying it's illegal to judge a person by one act they did and committed murder.
I'm just, the Miller test,
It's about the same kind of.
we have to go by the Miller test, which is a Supreme Court, and it has to be judged as the book by the whole. 1 or 2 pages are not allowed to be used to make a decision on a book.
Okay,
Yeah.
how are movies done? Does anybody know that? How are they rated? I don't know that. I'm just asking.
They are rated by the MPAA, and it's a multi-million-dollar industry that they pay a lot of money for that, and it is a parental suggestion. Yeah, we are not allowed to do that in libraries.
Right, I just didn't know how they was
Yeah.
classified, because I know that in one book in particular, there's stuff in there that would be a rated R movie. And it's for kids to look at, so I don't see the difference really in,
Are you talking about This Book is Gay?
no,
Okay.
that's even worse. But that's not from a
Okay.
picture or a scene in it, it's from, the instructions that it has in it about the Grindr account.
We have asked for a list from the commissioners. We have not been given a list.
And we also don't have any requests for reconsideration currently active within the Fontana Regional Library System from any of the 6 libraries right now.
Tracy, did you say you asked the Board of Commissioners for a list?
I think one of the commissioners is on the Jackson County Board and was asked for.
So let's
No, the
clarify.
FRL.
Did-
Yeah, no, the board that you were on asked you for titles, and we did not receive
Let's
it.
clarify that. Did you ask me personally as a?
No, I
commissioner?
asked the Jackson
Okay.
County Board member.
Okay.
Yes, not the, I'm sorry, I should clarify, just not the commissioners, but one commissioner.
What I'm hearing is that you have concerns about our collection development policy, and you would like us to relook at that. And I've already stated that we are looking at all of our policies to see whether or not they need to be changed, because we've had a huge turnover in our board composition of the people who've been appointed by each of the 3 counties to serve on this board and provide the services to our counties. And we are responsible and accountable to the counties through the agreement to do that.
So what I'm seeing is, it's in process with the collection committee to look at how we obtain, how we display, and that, the books that we're getting, or the books that are.
We do not currently have a committee to look at the collection development policy again. It is not one of our active committees. It does not mean that we could not form it in July at our next regular meeting.
Thought that you had said you
We
were.
have the
Okay.
circulation policy
Circulation policy.
committee
So
is
the
currently
collection
active.
committee would be who we would need to.
The collection development policy, right. And so we would form that committee. I will say we only have 9 members, just like you only have, 5. And so we can only do so many things at one time. But but I believe, I mean, I can't speak for all the members, but I know we all are. Like I said, we were all appointed for a reason. We all volunteered for a reason, and we all do care passionately and deeply, which sadly has come out in some of us, that we're very passionate about this. But we do want to do the right thing, and we want to do the right thing for the citizens of all 3 counties, because that is our charge, whether we are from Swain, Jackson, or Macon. We as a board are supposed to take care of all 3.
Right. Okay. So if we wanted to begin the collection development policy review, would we just come to a board meeting and ask for that? Or would it be I mean, is it a citizen-driven thing, or is it a Fontana Regional Library Board-driven policy? I mean,
I think it could be either. I mean, I think the circulation policy, it was internal to the board and coming from one of the advisory boards. Is that correct, Lori, as to how we formed that committee? Because we were adding the juvenile card, so we needed to update the policy anyway to add the juvenile card into it. And then we wanted to look at it again and do a deep dive on it, so we formed a committee to do that, to make sure it was exactly what we wanted it to be. So that's what I mean, is that we typically would form a committee to do that when we need to. So it could be because somebody has brought it up. It could be because library staff has noticed it's obsolete and doesn't answer the questions they need answered, so that they have the guidance they need on how to operate. Similar to your policies within the county,
Right.
It really could come anywhere.
okay.
But like I said, my intent was, and as discussed with the board and with several of the individual board members, was that we know we need to review all our policies, because some of them have not been reviewed, because there was not a regular drumbeat. We've honestly been playing a reaction game the last 2 years and not been able to take the time we needed to be proactive and go after these. And I think we're going to have a fairly stable board after July 1st, when our last new member joins, which will be replacing Ellen from Swain County, because her term ends June 30th and the new person starts July 1st. It's unfortunate, because it means there's going to be a huge turnover in 3 years. But, for now, it means we'll have a stable board for at least the majority of those 3 years. So I feel like we'll be able to get at some of these policies and processes and things and really do a deep dive into it.
Do you know when the last time that policy was looked at?
Which policy?
The collection development policy?
I sure do. The date's on the bottom of your page.
Awesome. This is 3/12/2024.
Yep.
Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, and I will reiterate, it had to go through a First Amendment attorney,
Okay.
because of the, all of the legalities that we have to follow. And part of that is having a process in place. We cannot just do stuff without following the review for consideration.
And I think I said earlier that a lot of different communities across the nation have chosen different paths, and a lot of those are being tested right now in the courts. And so I'm hopeful that some of those will make it to the Supreme Court soon, so that we'll get a clear legal direction as to what we can and can't do without opening up ourselves to litigation. In the meantime, we'll be relying on our attorney to help guide us, to keep us out of trouble. Because like I said, I don't think the people of any of our counties want us to have to spend a lot of money on legal fees.
Any additional questions?
The juvenile card, do you feel that now conforms to the Parental Bill of Rights in North Carolina?
The Parental Bill of Rights does not cover.
Kevin Corbin, the co-author of the bill, feels that it does.
I hadn't finished, sorry. The Parents' Bill of Rights does not govern public libraries. The Parents' Bill of Rights does cover schools, which covers our student access card, and we are no longer doing that in Jackson County. Swain County is not doing it this year, and Macon County still hasn't responded.
Why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing it?
Because Jackson County said they were not going to do it. We checked with the Parents' Bill of Rights to see,
Was there a reason they was decided not to do it?
the Parents' Bill of Rights
It was
has a,
in violation of the Parents' Bill of Rights. It's the reason that the school system.
the school felt like it might be. Macon County did not feel like theirs was, so the state has not said anything yet to say one more way or the other. Many, many counties across the state do have student access, but at this time, Jackson County does not.
And that was a decision made by
Jackson County Schools.
Board of Education.
I don't know whether the Board of Education voted on it or whether it was a superintendent's decision. I do not know.
You said it was superintendent? Okay.
The letter we've received from Kevin Corbin said it did apply to libraries, that, yeah.
If they use our student access card, but we don't have those anymore. Okay.
The juvenile card is the parent can choose a card for that their child would have the small card. So that's different from the student access.
Student access was so they could gain access online also?
Or walk into the library or whatever. It just made it easier for them because they were using their student ID number, which counted as a card.
Yeah, the student access program was started at the state level, and different libraries and different school systems chose to participate or not. It's a little confusing because even in getting the letter from Mr. Corbin, I did reach out to him to ask for clarification because he also voted to fund the NC Kids online content that is accessible through the student access program that's provided at the state level as enrichment and supplementary classroom material for schools throughout the state. But without a student access card, you can't access it. And so, I mean, it's a lot of confusion. I asked Tracy to ask the State Library of North Carolina, who has the policy and programming for the student access program, whether their attorney, whether they had reached out to the attorney at the state level to find out what to do, or if they had any advice for local library systems, whether a county library, city library, or a regional library, and they said they don't provide legal advice. And so the student access program still exists at the state level, and individual school districts are basically choosing to participate or not. That is covered, the student access card as well as the juvenile card are covered in our circulation policy, which is a committee currently meeting that's chaired by Ms. Richards, and she has done quite an extensive amount of research into this issue to make sure that we are complying with any legal requirements we have as a public library. And I know that the same is happening at the school districts. I can't speak to what Jackson did, but I did speak to the chair of the Swain County Board of Education to find out from him whether Swain County was going to take, was looking at it, and they are. They've been looking at it and had the superintendent looking to see what they wanted to do. And it's my understanding they're probably not going to participate in the next year, but we haven't gotten a letter. Bree, did you want to add anything to that? Because I know you've been doing all the research on this.
Just that Benjamin Murphy, I believe it was, at the state library, he's the program director, I think, for NC Cardinal. And he did state that the librarians are responsible for compliance to the PBR. And so I have asked for, I haven't received yet, but a list of e-resources so the board can look into how they can make that student access card compliant, because it depends on the vendors. So I may have received some, I'm not sure, but I haven't dived deep into it yet. But there is a possibility of making the student access card compliant with the PBR through vendors that are able to restrict the access. And I believe Tracy had mentioned, is it called SOAR or something like that?
SORA, S-O-R-A, but the schools are the only entity that can add SORA, and Jackson, Macon, and Swain do not have it in their schools.
But I think bottom line is there's more research to be done. The action that's been taken now has been on the part of the school districts to protect the children and to comply. They're under a lot of pressure, obviously, to comply with the Parents' Bill of Rights. And so we fully support them in those decisions that they make and march on from there. But like I said, we'll continue to do that research, and Lori is the chair of our Circulation Policy Committee. And we are actively rewriting that policy now, and we'll probably be bringing it to the board for a vote in July to approve a new circulation policy.
Comment? Okay. I want to disagree with the chair. You are facing a decision whether or not to get out of the Fontana regional system. And I think we as a board should be willing to hear everything you want to say and everything you want to show us in the interest of full transparency to understand your position as best we can.
That is, Mr. Cubis, do you want to weigh in on this issue? I mean, I just don't want to get anybody into trouble with.
And just clarify, Mr. Chair, are we speaking specifically about the imagery that was discussed about being presented?
Correct.
So I think we can go about this in two ways. There have been some concerns, I guess, raised about presenting this in open meeting. If those concerns persist, I'd recommend that we go into closed session in view. That being said, if the Jackson board is of the opinion that they would like this imagery, displayed during the course of this meeting, I see no reason why we aren't able to do so.
The only caveat that I have is when Ms. Womble and I spoke, we were not going to display or have these types of things happen. There was going to be a discussion, and I wasn't made aware of the images until after we had spoke. So kind of the groundwork of what we discussed and how we were going to go about this meeting is not agreed upon, just from our discussions of how we were going to handle everything today. So I almost feel like we should adjourn this meeting without those images and then come back to it at a later time.
And I would ask, and I understand, Deborah, thank you for saying that, because it's an entirely valid point.
Right.
My concern would be, what do you want me to do with that? You show us these images. Are you asking us to take an action? We said we weren't going to take an action at this meeting. There is a process and a policy that we're happy to follow and review anything that you would like us to review. So I'm not sure whether it's worth the time, especially if it's out of books we've already reviewed in the last few years. Although, like I said, there's new people on the board, so.
I don't know what books have been reviewed in the last few years, but I think that if there is a process and we need to begin that process, then that's what we need to do. But that's my opinion.
The reason I mentioned it was because for the new collection group, maybe y'all could understand what we're not looking for. That was the reason.
Well, and I think that when we form that committee, which, like I said, will likely, I would say, is fairly likely to be formed in July, based on the discussions we're having, at least assuming I get elected the chair in July. But if that is the case, then we can certainly ask for your input. I mean, our committees can function, as committees are supposed to, the same as your committees within the county. Where you're getting that. So yeah, I mean, there's not a reason why we wouldn't be able to ask, and it certainly would help to get that feedback from you of the specific concerns. If there is something in the collection development policy when you read it that the wording could be changed, that would help to eliminate the concerns that you have about particular pieces of content in our libraries, we certainly would welcome that. I mean, honestly, it would make our lives easier if we got that, because then we wouldn't be guessing. So yeah, certainly. I mean, I can't guarantee that because, but I think, we have 8 of our 9 board members here. And so I would just look around and say, would any of you, what do y'all think about that? About relooking at the collection development policy and asking for input from the 3 counties?
I will say that the collection development policy cannot tell us not to order certain books.
Well, we would have to have our attorney to assist
Yeah.
us with making sure that we keep it legal.
Yeah.
We do want to do that, but
Yeah.
that's why we have attorneys. So, Marva, did you want to say something?
Yes. I agree with Deborah Smith that I think the public here needs to see some of this stuff so they understand what this whole thing is about. Well, you maybe have, ma'am. I don't know if everyone here has.
We're not answering questions from the audience.
Go ahead, Mike.
At the end of the day, if you rewrite the collection policy, it's up to you guys or that committee to accept what we say or not, our input, right? And then it's up to that committee to still put what they want in the library in Jackson County with or without our input, whatever they decide, correct?
In accordance with the current Fontana Regional Library Regional Agreement, you have delegated that authority and responsibility to the board of the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees. That's correct.
Thank you.
If you wanted to renegotiate the Fontana Regional Library agreement, then that would require all 3 counties and the board and this board to be involved. What I would just ask is that, as I've pointed out, we've had a huge turnover in our board members. You in Jackson County have appointed 3 new members since September of last year. We've only had really, 4 meetings in that amount of time, and we've been focused on getting the regional agreement in place, getting the new circulation policy, getting the juvenile card in place, and getting a budget in place, and dealing with hours and hours of public comment. We've really not had the chance, this board, to take an action and to move forward. And so I'd ask you to look at these board members that you appointed from Jackson County, and if you really think they're not doing their jobs, then I would say maybe you need to replace them. But that would seem silly since you just appointed them. But that's what I'd say is give us a chance.
The ones at Jackson County are not doing their job?
No, I'm implying that if you're saying this board is not doing this job.
I didn't imply that, say
Yeah,
that, mean that, or anything.
because I would say give us a chance to do our job.
I was just asking you the procedure, if that's how it would work.
Yes.
Hypothetically, I wasn't saying
Yes.
anybody was not doing their job.
Yeah, because I think we have very, very conscientious, good board members.
I didn't mean to make you think otherwise. I was just asking the procedure that would be followed.
If I could just chime in concerning it's obvious that the board members, commissioners, you guys have serious concerns about one of the publications, and what I'm hearing is that you wanted to show individual images that illustrate your concerns. And the FRL board is not trying to be non-transparent by saying there's not any good that can come from that in this meeting. The review of a piece of work that's in the library has to be subjected to what's called the Miller test, and that's a very old standard that the Supreme Court uses in determining what's obscenity and what's not. And part of that test is looking at the work in its artistic whole to see if it lacks any artistic, scientific value, okay, to determine whether that's one of the prongs of the test. And so just showing select images to this board that cannot take action at this time just really it would just be kind of, okay, you've shown us some pictures in a book that you guys don't agree with, right? But before you, that was presented to you by Director Tracy Fitzmaurice, is the form that you can use to challenge the piece of work that you guys want to challenge. You individually, as a member of the community, can walk in the library with that form, fill it out online, whatever you want, and then there'll be a full hearing in which the board will discuss that piece of work, you know?
I understand.
I mean, I think that I want to emphasize that this board is not trying to block you from challenging this work. We welcome a challenge, so that they can review it. And because when this book was reviewed prior, that was before the 2024 agreement. You commissioners control these boards now. You get to appoint 3 people, whomever you wish. And so I think that, you know, through all of these hearings that I've heard since, you know, the 6th of May, right? Why hasn't somebody just gone into the library, if they didn't have a library card, get one, fill out the form and challenge this material? And you have it before you. The vehicle for that is right in front of you.
Well, the reason I was saying that was because it's not 1 book or 3 or 7 or 9 books. It's what would replace them later on down the line. Something similar. That's why we don't want to have to, y'all don't want to spend the time, we don't want to spend the time to challenge 1 book, another book, right on. If we could get the collection policy to understand what we don't want, maybe that would save a lot of everybody's time.
Well, I think that you commissioners, through your appointments to the board, are going to get input on those policies. If not directly, if you want to comment on the meeting at the FRL board meetings. I believe the timeline has been given by the chairwoman. When is that committee meeting?
Our next regular meeting is July 8th at the Nantahala Library. We meet every other month, so 6 times a year, and each meeting is at one of our 6 libraries. And it's the same schedule each year as to which library we're at and which month that we have the meeting. And so that would be the next opportunity we would have to appoint committees, would be at our July 8th meeting.
I have a question about what process we go through as a board. I'm a new member in vetting an attorney to represent our board. I wonder what kind of vetting process have the board members had input into selecting an attorney that represents the board? Thank you.
That's an interesting question to have at our joint meeting. But this is your first meeting, and I will say that Mr. Large has been representing Fontana Regional Library through the Fontana Regional Library renegotiation process. And so that is why he is still supporting us at this time. I was not part of the decision process last year because I was not the chair or the executive director. But we can have that discussion at our next board meeting if you would like to add that to the agenda.
I would like to point out that a book cannot be re-challenged for 3 years, so it's perfectly normal, cannot be re-challenged until, 2026? So there are limitations and restrictions on that. Another point I have is that I've heard questions about, what are your objections? And now you're saying, let us show you our objections, and people are saying, we don't want to see your objections.
I think the point is, there's nothing we can do about it. You can show us all you want, but we're not in a position to vote on anything here, so it would be a waste of time. That's the put.
And so how many, if Jackson County citizens went in and filled out the form to appeal the book, how many books do y'all really go through at a time? So 1 book, 3 books, 5 books. If someone went in and appealed 100 books, would all those 100 books go to you guys? And then the determination come back at 2 meetings, 3 meetings? I mean.
It would take a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, because there's only so many hours in a day, and as I said, we're volunteers. It would also, if it was a large number, it does take a lot of work on the part of the library staff, the librarian for each individual library, to conduct the reviews and prepare that assessment. In saying that, I would just say is that we do have regular business that needs to happen, but that is the purpose, and so we would do it. We would, every form that gets turned in, we have a requirement to take action on, to review it. And I personally have read every book of the 5 or 6 that have been since I've been on the board, because I felt that was my obligation before I could make a vote, would be to make sure that I knew that book and that material. And I would continue to do that. And if it was 100, it just might take us more than 2 months to get through that. And it would also mean that there would be a limitation probably in what we could ask our librarians to do, the 3 county librarians, because they're the primary points on that. So, yeah. I think the collection development policy really is, I mean, unless there's truly I don't want to discourage anyone from using the process and filling out the forms if they truly are concerned about something that's in one of our 6 libraries. That is the purpose of it. That's why we have
The process.
the process, and that's why it's been in place for literally decades. And like I said, it has worked in accordance with that process. That being said, our policies are living documents, and if the policy needs to be updated or changed, we want to do that too, and we want to take that for action.
I don't think it's a waste of time to look at what so many people's concerned about in Jackson County. I think it's not a very good way to look at it, because there's so many different folks in Jackson County that's concerned about this content. But if y'all are not willing, if I could finish, if y'all are not willing to look at this, then maybe the meeting's a waste of time.
I think what it is legally, we cannot take action.
We're not asking you to take action.
No, but I mean, legally,
Tonight.
if you told me the title and I read the whole book, legally I cannot make a decision on a single picture in a book.
We're not asking you to take
No, I'm just
action
saying,
tonight.
in general, we have to look at the whole of the book.
We set this meeting up to bring the concerns of Jackson County residents to this board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I called for, I pushed for, and here we have it. And, I mean, if you don't want to see it, we'll have to show it. So,
I understand your point, and I do. And like I said, Deborah and Marva both, brought up also that point. And I'm not saying that we're not willing to. I'm just not sure what the point would be, because you've addressed the fact that there is content that the people of Jackson County are not happy with. And I'm saying, and we're saying, that we're open to knowing what that content is. We're just asking for the process to be followed so that we can follow that and have it documented, so that we can do that. Because, I mean, we do care. We do want to do it.
Have any like regional board members, so like one that's just for Jackson County, that obviously works under, or for you guys as well, not trustees, but just the regional libraries for Jackson County, the lower board.
The advisory board.
Advisory board.
The advisory boards do not work for the Fontana Regional Library. They're appointed by the county commissioners to provide advice, and they have their own bylaws and responsibilities.
Have they brought any of this up to you as a board?
So the individual advisory boards
Correct.
do provide input via the board members. If the board members on our board also happen to be serving as an advisory board member, we do have some board members who are not on the advisory board, and so they would not have that opportunity to have that feedback. The board members from the advisory boards do bring, I can't remember what it's called, Lori, help me, an overture from the advisory board, yes. And we have had those from both Macon and Jackson County in the last year.
Okay.
Yes.
But not about book. Just wanted to clarify.
One was about the student access card, I think, and the juvenile card. And I don't remember what the Macon one was. Bill, do you remember what the Macon one was? Fines and fees?
Yes,
Oh, it was supporting,
maintaining
maintaining fines and fees
right.
and not doing away with fines and fees, but we weren't actually looking at doing away with fines and fees. But that's okay. But they wanted to make sure it was on the record, they wanted us to still have fines and fees, which the circulation policy does have still.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding this right. The published age for the book,
Mm-hmm.
the one in particular that everybody's been talking about, is perfectly normal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that it's illegal to move that? I'm not asking you to throw it out of the library. It's illegal to move that book to an adult section. And an adult can check that book out for their child if they want them
A
to have it.
child,
I know a child has to be with a parent,
yes,
but it's still in the juvenile section. Is that correct?
it is correct. And part of the reason is because it's a sex education book for younger, 10 and up.
Don't
It-
mean to interrupt you. Some people may not see it as sex education. But by the pictures and by the text, some people may not see it as a sex education book. We early on, I believe in sex education. Early on, we were taught sex education, and I believe that, that's a very big topic for our teenagers coming into adulthood. But some parents may not be ready to have that conversation with their child at 10 years old.
Well, and they're with their child and they wouldn't let them check it out.
Okay, so let's just say that if somebody's in the library with their child,
Yes,
and just like a child does, runs ahead of their parent, and just so happens, pulls that book off the shelf and looks at the pictures, and they're 10 years old, and their parents didn't want them to see that. Well, now I know your argument's going to be your parents should have been watching the child, but I think that there's a lot of people here that has children,
mm-hmm.
and they can run away very easily and just so happen to pull that book off.
The 10-year-old could also, if you place a book written for children into an adult section, then that child will have to go to the adult section to get that book, in which case they will be introduced to other books that were written for adults. So that's why sections are kept specifically for the ages. Now, if that book is challenged again, and,
In 3 years, right?
well, it's been 2 years. Now, if that book was challenged again, bearing in mind that book is 30 years old, it would be up to this board if they wanted to move it. I would never put that book in the adult section, because that way children would then go to get that book, and it would be in the adult section with other books on sex written for adults that those children would then be introduced to. So that's the reason we try and keep them in the area that it's written for.
So this book is written on sex for children.
It's sex ed for 10 years old and up. It's
Well,
sex
The
education.
parent would have to be with them to go to the adult section to get it too, right?
If they're
Correct.
10 years old. So that would be up to the parent. And so it's up to the parent wherever they go. And, I mean, there are thousands and thousands of books in the library. It is put in that section. It is one of the, I know, Mr. Bryson, you don't feel like it's a sex ed book, but it is one of the best
I'm not
rated.
saying that I don't feel, I'm saying
No,
that people in the
I know, but
county.
it is rated for that. It is given out doctors have reviewed it. It has been republished 5 times because it is considered the best book on that subject.
But my question was, is it illegal, and this may be a question
It's
for the
not
attorney,
illegal.
to move it to the adult section?
It would be, now, in Greenville, South Carolina, yes, they are looking at that, a censorship.
Jackson County.
No, I'm just following the law because I don't want to be litigated against. If you're moving it, it is considered censorship because it is not in the area where it is written for that age group.
And that's what Greenville County's getting sued for right now.
Yes.
What age does a child not, or a kid, young adult, not have to have their parents with them?
Our safe child policy,
Present, they have to be with them up to 8 and present up to 12.
yeah.
What did you say, Mr. McGaha?
They have to be physically with them up to 8 years old, present up to 12 years old.
And what does that mean, present?
They're in the library somewhere, or the
They're in the
guardian is,
library, so this book,
but not necessarily with them physically.
so this is up to 8, and then this book is available to 10 years old, so.
But it is up to the individual parent whether there's a safe child policy. It is up to the individual parent whether, for example, the juvenile limited card means children 15 and under cannot check out anything unless it's from the children's section. These are all parental choices.
So when someone pulls a book off the shelf, do they, I mean, if it was me, if I was wanting to check out a book, I would want to pull it off the shelf, look at it, look at the back, read the back, make sure it's something I want.
Mhm.
So is this stopping a child 9 years old or 10 years old from going to the, he just said it, they had to be accompanied until 8 years old and
It's
then
up-
present
Yeah.
from 8.
So if a parent of a 10-year-old feels like they need to watch their child, that is their choice.
No, but what I'm saying.
If a parent of a 10-year-old feels comfortable with their child going anywhere in the section with them, that is their choice. It is a parental choice.
We last updated the safe child policy in 2023. That's obviously something that we could also look at again. At the time that we did that, we were trying to balance when parents had expressed that they wanted to be able to come to the library and have their children participate in story time and things like that, or in some sort of craft project, and the parent run over to the adult section or use a computer while their kid was doing that. So it's trying to balance that they didn't actually have to have a parent or guardian, attached to them at the hip the entire time, and recognizing that teens needed to have a little bit more space. But that is something that we can certainly look at again, if that's something, like I said, these are all policies, and they can all be looked at and revised.
Up to 8 is by their side. After 8 is present in the library. So
Up to 12.
up to 12,
Yeah.
And
And-
over 12, it's
wide open.
14 years old, you can be wherever you want to anytime.
With permission of a parent, legal guardian, or caretaker.
So
You still have to have permission for the child to be in the library, and the child has to follow the library policy.
So present in the library, we've got an 8-year-old child, the parent decides to go upstairs. The 8-year-old child stays downstairs.
If the parent, people that maybe are I think we've found 4 or 5 sex offenders in the library before. We've reported every one of them immediately. We've had them arrested. We keep a very close watch, and if anyone is acting in a way that we deem concerning, we immediately report it. We have signs on each door because sex offenders are not allowed in the library. They are told that when they are arrested or on parole or anything, and some of them do not adhere to that. And we have wonderful staff that closely pay attention. And we have been I've been very thankful for the staff for catching them and having them arrested on site.
How do you know if you have a sex offender in there? And that, I really don't know.
No, they obviously can come in and not be noticed, but I can give you a couple of examples. We have a front circulation desk, and it's in front of the children's section. It has the children's section desk. If we see people acting unusual, you can look at the sex offender registry. We keep that pretty close by. We look at the name. If we notice, which we have done, that this person shouldn't be in there, we do not intervene. We immediately call the sheriff's office, and they immediately come in. And Sheriff Farmer can address this more as to how many have been jailed, and we have been subpoenaed for a couple of court cases against them.
I think one of the good things about having local citizens who work in our libraries and being in small towns is that you do tend to know who the local sex offenders are, because it's in the newspaper. It's something that's talked about in the community, because those cases get a lot of attention, as they should. And schools, playgrounds, all public spaces where sex offenders are not allowed to be, the people who work there are watching, because they want to keep our children safe. And we want to identify those people. And if they are violating the law again, whether it's at a school, a playground, a library, wherever it is, we want them to be caught and to properly adjudicate that, because we don't want them to reoffend. We don't want them around.
I would like to say one thing, is that the library is a very, very safe space. We watch out for children. We want the best for the children. And we work closely with the parents. We have a lot of happy people come into the library. We have books in the library that represents our entire community. Everyone in the community has to be represented in our library. But as far as the safety of the children, I would put my trust in any of those employees to watch over those children carefully.
That doesn't mean we want them there unattended.
No, it doesn't mean we want them there unattended, but I have watched many, I've been there so long, I have watched many children grow into adults that now bring their own children. It is a safe environment.
So I got a question. If somebody challenged a book and your board said that book shouldn't be in this section, what do you do with it then? What happens to that book?
We would move it to the appropriate section.
What would that be?
So that's legal to do?
So that's not.
Yeah. We did that on one, but now based on the lawsuit in Greenville County, and it's not just down there, there are lawsuits all across the United States in different states. Like I said, I'd hope that some of these are gonna make it to the Supreme Court soon, so that we'll have a clear guidance on what censorship is and what it's not, so that we would know what is legal. I really don't want us to be the test case. I'd rather somebody else have to be litigated first. But we have moved one book, at least one book, in the last 3 years.
One book,
One book
yeah.
went from youth to young adult.
Okay, it went from youth to young adult, so we have moved one.
Young adult to adult.
It went
Oh,
from
one.
young adult to adult. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And we didn't get litigated on that
No,
so far.
that's fine.
There are ways of, as you know, I don't know how many of you have children. You might have a 12-year-old that reads books more for a 10-year-old, more for a 14-year-old. You know, children aren't one type of, reading level. If a book is brought up for reconsideration and it's written for a 12-year-old, it's safer to keep it in that age group where it's written for. If it is moved, you can be sued for censorship. It's not illegal to move it per se, but it can be litigated, because that book is written for an age group and the libraries have it in that section for a reason.
But ultimately, as a board, what we would do is follow our collection development policy and ask for legal advice from our attorney in making a decision. and then we would vote, and we would take the action, and Tracy would be required to execute what the board wanted.
I know the answer to this, but is there, does it need to be a unanimous vote on a decision like that?
No.
Okay.
Our bylaws say that it's a simple majority. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, and that's in our bylaws. And actually, I believe the regional agreement also requires us to follow Robert's Rules of Order.
I'm concerned about a totally different book than what y'all been talking about this whole time.
Would you mind giving me the name?
Do what?
Would you mind giving me the name?
I don't know what it'll help, because you can't do anything about it today.
No,
right?
I was just curious if I could explain why it's where it is, but
I don't,
if
I
you-
don't think we need to do
Okay.
that today.
I think,
Okay. That makes sense.
But I would encourage you to fill out the form and get it to us quick, because the sooner we get it, the sooner we can look at it.
it's on top of the list.
I do want to ask if there's any other concerns, because I am watching past county commissioners' meetings. I haven't been able to attend in person because they're often on the same night as Swain, but I've watched some of the videos, and I've read some of the press reports, and I've read some of the interviews. It seemed like there were a few other things that y'all were concerned about having to do with the libraries. Is there anything else that you haven't covered yet?
Additional questions from the board?
I got here late anyway. I don't know what else been covered, but
We've basically recovered it as
Okay.
well.
I would like to ask my board also, if you'd please indulge me, I'd like to ask them if they would like to make any comments or ask any questions so that we can be prepared, because as I said, we all do care. We want to do the right thing. We feel obligated to serve the citizens of all three counties and want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And so I want to make sure they have the opportunity to ask any follow-up questions to you. And I'm going to start with Deborah.
I feel somewhat bound by the ethical statement that I signed, not to share some things that I would otherwise share.
Okay. But you'll bring them to our board meeting in July? Okay,
I am compelled not to share some
Okay.
of my ideas and thoughts and
okay. Right,
concerns.
Bill?
But our ethical statement is something that the board developed, and that can be looked at.
It's a policy.
If
And,
that's changed, I'll be glad to.
and I
Okay.
think my board is well aware that there's many things that I'm interested in pursuing. They've been touched on here tonight. I'm from Macon County. Currently, right now, they have a slightly different position, I guess, on what you all are considering. But my duty is to do the best I can to make the FRL the best it can be as long as it exists. And that includes many things you've talked about tonight. And we're going to be looking at these policies because there's many of them that I want to look at. Thank you.
Kathy?
Thank you. I would just reiterate what Mr. McGuire has said. Well, I want to support our libraries and make them the best we can make them, and review the policies that our commissioners have brought up tonight. Thank you.
Ellen?
This is my last meeting after 2 terms. So I really don't have anything to add, except I do have faith in this board and the director and the system. And I think, I hope you guys will feel that as well.
Thank you for your volunteering service.
Yeah, I hope you guys go away really knowing that we care.
He doesn't
No, I don't
want you
mean
to go away.
Sorry, y'all. No, I want you to stay here now.
Pause.
We do care. We care. When we look at these policies, we care. We're trying to remember, we serve everybody. Everybody. So we can't just zero in on one group. And I want you to know that that's what we're trying to do, is do the best. Mr. McGay has said it best. We want to do excellent service, and I want to do it for everybody. That's fair, isn't it?
I didn't hear anybody call out a group, but maybe they did.
Lori?
I agree with Bill and Kathy.
And Marva?
I think I can say this without getting in trouble with the Ethics Committee, but everyone on this Fontana board needs to be concerned with Kevin Corbin's statement about the Parents' Bill of Rights, because it says here that we are legally responsible for the control and management. So we all need to take this seriously.
Additional comments from the Board of Commissioners?
No, sir.
I would love to have the chance to show you all around the library and talk to you directly about your concerns. I didn't, some of you might feel better once you come around and look at it, and we can talk about things. I appreciate.
And,
you
and I'll
consider that.
definitely say, as final, is just, you know, as a reminder, if you do have any concerns about the director or the finance officer, they do both work directly for the board, or about any of our policies and processes, please do let me know. Mark has all my contact information, but I'm happy to share it with any of you. And because we do want to take your feedback, and we want to take action where it's appropriate to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and hearing our comments and concerns. With that, if there are no further questions, I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed?
I need to take a motion from the FRL board to adjourn.
So moved.
Bill McGaha has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody seconded? All in favor? Aye. Aye, I believe.